You and the birds that sing outside my room. I know it's you, 'cause no one's words can soothe me like you do. Did you see me grow? I'm a little older now.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
The last time that we spoke, you said I'd make it through somehow. So
Good morning.
for you, I will answer.
Grand Rising.
For you, I'll move on. You stay with me.
It won't happen overnight. It may never happen at all.
But I'm still
Good.
healing.
And I'm gonna give everybody a chance to get in here.
'Cause you want me to. I'll dance with you one day on the moon. You'll tell me
Hey, Miss T.
stories I was too young to know. For you,
It's 6 a.m. with you. Okay, so I need to make sure I put Eastern Standard Time. I had to look at the clock again.
For you, I'll move on. You stay with me. It won't happen overnight. It may never happen at all.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you. Sometimes I be forgetting. Listen, them cookies got ate last night, Kush. I ain't even gonna lie. They got ate last night. What's my morning looking like? I'm gonna do this for, I think if we're up to it, we're gonna read for 2 hours. Okay, we're gonna read for 2 hours. During that time, I'll get my tea together. Sometimes when I get on live in the morning, it's always like a chill vibe anyway, because we don't need to shock our system when we first wake up with a whole bunch of rah-rah. Let me make sure Penelope is up. Let me go send her a message to wake her ass up. But yeah, so we're gonna read for 2 hours, see how much we get done. Again. Oh, happy birthday. So we're gonna read chapter 8. That's where we're starting today. If you guys want chapter 1 through 7 and you're in the US, please let me know. I can send you the live. So happy birthday. Happy solo return. Hey, Nikki. Oh, my bad. Mars, can you wake up your friend? Penelope. So I usually start about 15 minutes after to make sure the regulars get in here. And then we're going to get it going.
Feel it out. Unconfined, unrestrained, promise Promise me you'll cause no pain with
because it happens every time. Every time I start. Thank you for putting it out there.
Unconfined, unrestrained. Promise me you'll say my name with all is said and done. My life is just a glimmer.
It never fails. Every time I push play, that's when our regulars get in here. So we're gonna jam for a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and get my tea started. And by then we should be ready. So I'll stop talking for a little bit.
Of time we all bound to this world. On the sin, on the fight, fleeing while we're in our pride. Together when it's all said and done. My life's just a glimmer in the sand. Who knows where it will stand in the crater? Running from you till I meet my creator.
What's going on, man?
I've learned happiness is where you are within your stars. I taste freedom's and the warmth of your sweater. You make me better. Purple petals, green still, outdoors, petals come from within. Red blood, juice, skin, perfect proportions, out and in, real heart beats softly but surely. It beats again.
Did Penelope make it, y'all? Good morning. Thank you for letting me
Lily's there and Adri's there. And then
hold on, let me turn it up. Did she make it in?
yeah, she is.
Good, good.
I did not mean to come up. Hold on, y'all.
It's okay. Mel says she typically has meetings on Wednesday afternoons. So hello, welcome, Ron.
What it is? How you doing this morning?
Doing pretty well. So we do the book club a little unorthodox here as we're reading. If you have any questions, you can either just come off mute or put your hands up in the comments if you want to discuss a particular part that we read.
What are we reading?
Happy birthday again. Yes, so we are reading. Hold on.
The autobiography of Assata.
Autobiography by Assata Shakur.
Okay, I remember y'all was talking about that book, and And I said, y'all had got from what, chapter 6?
We're on chapters. We're starting on chapter 8. So I had sent
Okay.
you the live on chapter 1 and 7, 1 through 7.
Now, as far as you going in,
Mm-hmm.
and it sounds so interesting, just say, for instance, I wanted to get back to finding out the other chapters.
Mm-hmm.
Is there something I need to go to Autobooks to get, or?
You can go on audiobooks, but I have a recording of it.
Uh-huh.
I thought I sent it to you. It should be like I forgot how it's labeled. But it's labeled chapter 1, but that one we actually read for 1 through 7. So if it didn't work, I can add you to a Google Drive where I have it. Mel says she found it on YouTube. I don't know if YouTube in the States has it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't find it on YouTube, to be honest,
Oh,
but
okay.
I could use it on the Google Drive. But
Okay.
so just so you have a broad overview, the book started with her being arrested after a pewing where one of her partners got unalived, one got away, she was in the hospital, and the police was basically abusing her. And during her being in the hospital, she was also talking a bit about her childhood. Yeah, that was the
Yeah.
first chapter.
Now, is this fiction or?
It's an
What really
autobiography.
happened?
Okay.
Yep. So I'm gonna go ahead
That
and let
she
me see.
unalived two state troopers or something. Neutral
Yeah.
state troopers. They wanted to railroad her.
Yeah. So we're gonna go ahead and start. Um, all right. So again, we're starting on chapter 8, and these chapters go. You found a PDF. Oh, and typically, like Penelope or Chi Chi, if they find a PDF, they'll put it in the chat for us too. So chapter 8 is only 25 minutes. Chapter 16 is 16 minutes. Then chapter 10 is 32. So we could chop a bit off of today. But
Okay.
yeah, Ron, you don't know who Assata Shakur is?
I heard about it. I just never had an opportunity to. I had my cousin was telling me about it, but I never had an opportunity to actually, download the book and actually really get into it.
Okay. Chi Chi, it didn't show on the PDF. But that's one of the primary reasons why I started the book club is because a lot of us want to read stuff but don't have the time or don't have the book or don't
You
have the
know,
audio.
I'm a
So,
truck driver. Not meaning to cut you off. I'm a truck driver, and a lot of times, some of the books I get, I do it on audio books then and be able to listen while I'm driving.
oh, okay, okay.
So,
And so you be safe out there. And yes,
oh,
and she
I'm
recently
relaxing today. It's my birthday. I ain't doing nothing for nobody.
she
You
recently
go work on it.
unalived what last week, right? I think last week she unalived, so it's like the perfect time. I had just bought this book, and there's another book, Afro Pessimism, that we're gonna read. So we chose to do this one first because she literally just unalived last week, supposedly. So it was just like the perfect time to start this book. All right, I'm gonna stop talking. I'm gonna go ahead and push play. Chapter 8. Let's get to it.
Chapter 8. After the village, I lived with Evelyn on 80th Street between Amsterdam and Columbus in Manhattan. She had a garden apartment in a brownstone. Nothing grew in the garden but weeds, and it was where our neighbors threw their garbage.
It's reading
The
kind of
apartment was
fast.
one big room that we used for
Oh, it's too
sleeping,
fast for
eating,
you?
and living.
Okay, hold
Yeah,
on.
It had a
too
kitchen and a
fast.
bathroom with an old-fashioned toilet
Let
up
me
on a
start it
platform.
over.
We are a
Okay.
conspiracy. Chapter 8. After the village, I lived with Evelyn on 80th Street between Amsterdam and Columbus in Manhattan.
Perfect.
She had a garden apartment in a brownstone. Nothing grew in the garden but weeds, and it was where our neighbors threw their garbage. The apartment was one big room that we used for sleeping, eating, and living. It had a kitchen and a bathroom with an old-fashioned toilet up on a platform and an overhead tank so that you had to pull on a little chain to flush it. Evelyn always referred to it as the dump. She had it fixed up nicely, but it was just too small for two people, especially if one of them was me. I was a slob, and Evelyn went to great pains to train me in neatness. In a small place like that, when just a few things are out of place, it looks like a hurricane passed through. And many times, after a long day's work, poor Evelyn would be greeted with a hurricane, a tornado, and an earthquake at the same time. Gradually, I learned to keep things in something vaguely resembling order. The neighborhood for me was exciting, full of character and different flavors. Central Park and Riverside Park were nearby, and I immediately fell in love with both of them. Then also there were plenty of museums nearby. I spent hour upon hour in the Museum of Natural History and the Metropolitan Museum of Art. They were free then and full of fascinating things. There were all kinds of stores for me to explore and examine, even though most of the time I didn't have any money. I was delighted with it all, and it was my first clear glimpse of the hierarchy of American society. 80th Street, like many of the nearby streets, was changing. Most of the changing, however, had taken place before I got there. Most of the Germans had moved out, and Blacks and Puerto Ricans were moving in. Evelyn told me that when she moved there, it was so safe she had slept in the summer with the back door open and just the screen door latched. On 80th Street, there might be 3, 4, 5, or more people huddled into a one-room apartment. Sometimes the apartments were rented furnished with nothing but an old, saggy bed, a chest of drawers, and a beat-up refrigerator and stove. You could usually tell them from the outside by the paper-thin plastic curtains shimmying in the wind. Most of the people on 80th Street were poor, although here and there were a few renovated apartments that catered to a clientele that was a little richer, usually night people. 79th Street was directly behind us, but there was a world of difference between the two. It was an upper middle-class street. Doctors and lawyers and a lot of performers lived there. Every day after school, I would hear an opera singer practicing.
Thank you.
Maybe that's why I developed a profound dislike for opera. The people on 79th Street wouldn't dream of socializing with the people on 80th Street. They recognized our existence with a mixture of amusement, fear, and dislike. 81st Street between Central Park West and Columbus Avenue was even richer. The lobbies were elegant, and the doormen were splendidly attired. They were, for the most part, all white and not even slightly aware of the people who lived only a block away. Farther over toward the river, near West End Avenue or Riverside Drive, there was a middle-class neighborhood. The buildings were usually old, grandiose, and well-kept. The people who lived there were mostly white, of course, with a few blacks and mixed couples thrown in. The Upper West Side, as the neighborhood was called, was supposed to be a liberal stronghold. I have never really understood exactly what a liberal is, though, since I have heard liberals express every conceivable opinion on every conceivable subject. As far as I can tell, you have the extreme right, who are fascist, racist, capitalist dogs like Ronald Reagan, who come right out and let you know where they're coming from. And on the opposite end, you have the left, who are supposed to be committed to justice, equality, and human rights. And somewhere between those 2 points is the liberal. As far as I'm concerned, liberal is the most meaningless word in the dictionary. History has shown me that as long as some white middle-class people can live high on the hog, take vacations to Europe, and send their children to private schools and reap the benefits of their white skin privilege, then they are liberals. But when times get hard and money gets tight, they pull off that liberal mask and you think you're talking to Adolf Hitler. They feel sorry for the so-called underprivileged, just as long as they can maintain their own privileges. Sometimes I walked over to the east side, on the other side of Central Park. If Riverside Drive was like another city, then the east side was like another world. English nannies pushed fancy baby carriages, they called them prams, through the eastern side of Central Park. The only black people you saw were servants, or like me, those just passing through. Fifth Avenue, Park Avenue, chauffeur-driven cars, diamonds, and furs. The Upper East Side was for the show-nuff rich. When I walked through those streets, some looked at me as if I was an object from a museum or something. Once or twice, a doorman actually stopped me and asked me where I was going. But I kept walking and looking. Sometimes I'd have some fun and walk into one of the stores. I couldn't believe there were people who paid that kind of money for things. As soon as I'd step in, the salespeople were right on me. Sometimes I said I was just looking. Other times I would ask for outrageous things like pickled feet. Usually they would say, "What? What? What?" And I would burst out laughing. One time I went into a grocery store and was asked who my mistress was. I was always crazy about art and made it a point to visit any art gallery I discovered. Sometimes they acted snooty or disgusted. At first I felt uneasy and out of place, but after a while, whenever they acted disgusted, I made a point of asking the price of each piece. They would turn so red and swell up so much that it was comical. I remember hating some of those people, but at the same time, I wanted to be rich like them. Back then, I thought being rich was the solution to everything. 4 blocks from where we lived, there was still another world, 84th Street between Amsterdam and Columbus. Before it was torn down, it was voted the worst block in the city. When I was a kid, I would never have imagined that people could live so bad. Living in some of those apartments was like living in a coffin. I swear there was one building that when you walked past it in the summer, it stunk so bad it made you want to drop to your knees. Usually I'd just sit on some stoop and watch the street. There was always something going on. Men standing around with do-rags on their heads, covering greasy processed hairdos, making deals, laughing and talking and looking at the women passing by. Drunks and fights and drunken fights. The street was always alive and swarming with people. Survival and life were hanging out in the open like laundry for everyone to see. Arguments, dirty deals, misery, and malice ran out into the streets like pus from open sores. There's something horrible and foreboding about the street, yet exciting at the same time. Lil Bit, who went to my school, lived on 84th Street. Her nickname was Lil Bit, but I called her Fruit Fly because she was crazy about fruit. I liked to hang out with her because she was a good walker. We could walk for hours without getting tired. One day, she asked me to come with her to get something from her house. When we got there, I couldn't believe it. I thought I had seen some messed up cribs before, but hers took the cake. She lived in a tiny little pea-green closet of a room, covered with wall-to-wall roaches.
Ooh.
I just kept staring at Lil Bit. She walked around in that horror house like it was normal. She didn't even try to kill the roaches. She just brushed them aside if they got in her way. When I left, I itched and scratched for hours.
I got the hell out of there. Shit.
I met Lil Bit's mother and started getting to know her and some of her neighbors. I got my first lesson in hopelessness. Lil Bit's mother used to work in factories and laundries as a presser, but she burned her hand real bad and was on some kind of disability. She lived from day to day and from check to check. She was always sick, and sometimes her cough was so bad, I thought she was going to die any minute. She acted like she was too tired or too weak to do much of anything. They had a hot plate, but most of the time they didn't even cook. They just ate sandwiches, usually lunch meat on white bread. Lil Bit's mother never went anywhere except to the clinic or to the welfare office or to the bar in Amsterdam. Sometimes she would get drunk and start crying about some man she used to go with. She didn't know anything about what was going on in the world, and she didn't seem to care. 84th Street was her world, and other worlds didn't really exist. When I was a Lil Bit and her mother, I felt all kinds of things.
She gave up.
Sometimes disgust and anger because they accepted anything and lived any old kind of way. Other times I felt sorry for them, and still other times I relaxed and enjoyed them because they were so easy and down to earth. But whenever I hung out with them, it was down on the stoop. I would never go up into that house. Evelyn kept my excursions at a bare minimum, though. She was strict and didn't play around. Every day after school, I had to be in the house by 4 o'clock, and she would call home just to see that I had arrived safely. Evelyn didn't want me in the street too much because she said the neighborhood was bad and she didn't want me to get in any trouble. And she also wanted me to stay home and do my homework. After homework, I read. I've never been too fond of television, and besides, Evelyn had an excellent library. Those books were like food to me.
Good morning, Miss
Fiction and poetry were my favorites, although I liked history and psychology too. I also liked to read about other countries and about all the different religions in the world. The only books I never touched were Evelyn's law books. They were dry and boring and Greek to me. Evelyn was a store of knowledge, and she knew about a whole range of subjects. We were always discussing or debating something. Hanging out with Evelyn, I started to think that I was cool and sophisticated and grown up and that I knew it all. You couldn't tell me nothing. I was just too cool. Evelyn and I went to museums and art galleries and the theater. On Broadway, off Broadway, she was turning me on to so many things. I started to view movies as an art form instead of just entertainment. I was learning what and how to order at restaurants, and my vocabulary and control of the English language were expanding greatly.
That's
But
a
life
good
with
thing.
Evelyn definitely had its ups and downs. Sometimes we got along famously, and other times it was terrible. Evelyn was super honest, and she just could not tolerate my lying.
What did you
I
say?
would try to tell the truth.
Sorry, you were saying something wrong?
No, I said anytime you be around somebody and they start to learn different things and expand their horizon, I think that's a good thing if it's especially expanding their vocabulary.
Truth and try to be honest, but sometimes, especially if I was in a tight situation, I would lie. I had been in the habit of lying, and it was easy for me to fall back into the old pattern. But it was futile to lie to Evelyn because she was a lawyer and would cross-examine me until I would inevitably trip myself up.
Hey, Pink.
Little by little, I got out of the habit, but it was a long and constant battle between us.
We just started.
Our
You know this
financial
much.
situation also
Good
had its
morning,
ups and
Boogie.
downs. One week we were rich, and the next week we were poor. Evelyn was determined to be a trial lawyer and to be in private practice. Most of her clients were Black and poor, and most of the time they didn't have money to pay her. But Evelyn would defend them anyway. She was always up in arms about some injustice or other. I used to call her the last angry woman. But whenever somebody did pay her, we were rich. We would go out and celebrate. For a week or so, we ate steaks and lamb chops, went to restaurants, took taxis. The next week, we would be right back to riding subways and eating hamburgers. Evelyn was generous and extravagant, and she had absolutely no head for business. I usually did the shopping for us since I was more tight-fisted and practical. Once in a while, I'd be tempted to give myself a 5-finger discount, but Evelyn was so honest that it rubbed off on me. I was becoming so goody-goody I couldn't stand myself. I really underwent a great change.
For the regulars who just got here, you didn't miss much. She's just giving a back story on how she came to live with Evelyn. She had a little friend who had a roach infested house, but we're not talking about her no more.
I'll tell you what, I wouldn't have a problem. God get out. She wouldn't have to worry about being my friend. She'll see me on the outside and wave and keep it moving.
Yeah, so after the first day of her spending in the house with Lil Bit, she ended up just staying on the porch. Yeah, she didn't stop being her friend. She just ain't go in the house no more.
I must still be a friend, but hell, and you can't come. And listen, you can't come to my house. 'Cause I don't want you bringing no roaches to my house.
Yeah, y'all. She said the roaches was just everywhere. That her friend Lil Bit didn't even swat them.
She
She
said
didn't even
wall
kill them.
to
She just
wall.
moved them out the way.
Can you imagine that though? Really?
Yeah.
Listen, and then I'll let you get back to it. I actually went to somebody's house like someone like that, to the point I just felt nasty. To the point I literally went to my house. I stripped before I even got to the house, and got straight in the tub.
Yeah, they were pets over there. They paid rent at her house.
Oh hell no!
All right. Strawberry says she only got an hour, which is good because, like I said before we started, Strawberry, these chapters are really short. We're already halfway through chapter 8, so that's why I wanted to give you that little bit. That's all we really discussed. Chapter 9 and 10 are like, how much? Like 10 to 15 minutes long and then 25 minutes long. So you're good. All right, here we go.
I had great plans for my future. I was going to junior high school 44, but Evelyn wasn't satisfied with the education I was receiving. JHS 44 wasn't a bad school, but we were learning at a much slower pace than at my school in Queens. I don't remember too much about the school except for the music classes. Most of the class was Black or Puerto Rican, and we all loved music. But we hated music class with a passion. The teacher talked to us as though we were inferior savages, incapable of appreciating the finer things in life. She lectured about symphonies and concertos and sonatas and the like in a snooty voice. A boy would mimic the gestures and expressions of the teacher, and the rest of us would giggle and snicker as she played music. The teacher became more and more exasperated, saying, "Listen! Can't you listen? Don't you have ears? Can't you appreciate anything? I'm trying to get you to appreciate music, and you all act as though you're deaf. I want you to stop talking. I want you to stop talking and listen. Do you hear me?"
Girl.
We got louder and louder, and the teacher became more and more disgusted. She would scream at us and call us names like hooligans and ignoramuses, and we returned her insults. We hated her because she thought the music she liked was so superior. She didn't recognize that we had our own music and that we loved music. For her, there was no other music except Bach and Beethoven and Mozart. To her, we were uncultured and uncouth. For her, Latin music, jazz, rhythm and blues were trashy and we were trash. She was a racist who would have denied it to the bitter end. A lot of people don't know how many ways racism can manifest itself, and in how many ways people fight against it. When I think of how racist, how Eurocentric our so-called education in America is, it staggers my mind. And when I think back to some of those kids who were labeled troublemakers and problem students, I realize that many of them were unsung heroes who fought to maintain some sense of dignity and self-worth. Evelyn strongly suggested that I enter Cathedral High School in the 9th grade. I was not at all happy about the idea, since I hated wearing a uniform and Catholic schools had a reputation for being so strict. But Evelyn kept on strongly suggesting, and I got the message. I didn't mind the Catholic religious part of it, though, since I was going to Mass regularly and I was kind of holy that year. I took the test for Cathedral and passed, and it was firm that I was going to enter Cathedral the next September. I even started to feel happy about it. It was a change, and I have always been a person who likes a change of scenery. I usually spent my weekends with one of my girlfriends or with my mother as much as possible. Tony was cool to hang out with, and she knew where all the parties were. But we never had deep conversations, so we never got really close. Bonnie I met through Tony and began what was to be a best friend relationship with an argument about Abraham Lincoln. We argued for hours until Bonnie's aunt told us to shut up and go to bed, since neither of us knew what we were talking about. Bonnie lived in the same building my mother lived in, and after that night, we became close friends and talked about every subject on earth. Bonnie knew more than I did about what was happening in the world, and we spent hours talking about Medgar Evers, sit-ins, freedom riders, etc. We began to write poetry about love and Black people, and sometimes we wrote morbid poetry about hate and death. As soon as we finished a poem, we'd call each other and read it. After a while, we read poetry together. Dorothy Parker and Edna St. Vincent Millay were our idols. We read everything they wrote and even memorized their poems. After that, we read all different kinds of poets. We were deep and were forever in the library or bookstore trying to find another poet who was deep too.
Mel,
The more we read, the more we wrote. And it came in handy in the street. If we didn't like somebody or we had some dispute with someone, we wrote a poem about them. We made up all kinds of dozens of poems and laughed our heads off. We were young and old, happy and sad at the same time. Usually every summer, I went down south to visit my grandparents. When they had the business on the beach, I loved it. But they had lost 2 different buildings on the beach, both destroyed by hurricanes. After the last one was leveled, they operated a restaurant on Red Cross Street. I liked working in the restaurant sometimes, but it wasn't as much fun as working on the beach. One of the last summers I spent down south, the NAACP rented a building a few doors from my grandparents' restaurant, which was a great source of interest to me. I was forever walking by, standing in the doorway, or sliding discreetly into the building to see what was going on. I could hear them talking about integrating the South by sitting in, praying in, singing in, and about nonviolence. I was glad because I surely wanted segregation to end. I had grown up exposed to the degrading, dehumanizing side of segregation. I remember that when we traveled from north to south and vice versa, we really felt the sting of segregation more acutely than at other times. We'd drive hours without being able to stop anywhere. Sometimes we would pull into a filthy old gas station, buy gas, and then be told that we were not permitted to use their filthy old bathroom because we were Black. I can remember clearly squatting in the bushes with mosquitoes biting my bare buttocks and my grandmother handing me toilet paper because we could not find a place with a colored bathroom. Sometimes we were hungry, but there was no place to eat. Other times we were sleepy and there was no hotel or motel that would admit us. If I sit and add up all the colored toilets and drinking fountains in my life, and all of the back of the buses or the Jim Crow railway cars or the places I couldn't go, it adds up to one great ball of anger. And so when I saw these NAAC people, I was ready to do whatever it was they were going to do. But they were very confusing. One day I was hanging around in the office and two men were talking about nonviolence and self-control. Then he walked around the room asking everybody questions. What would you do if they pushed you? Nothing. I'd just keep on doing what I came to do. What would you do if they kicked you? I'd pray to the Lord to forgive them for their sins. What would you do if they spit on you? I'd just go on singing. Well, that was too much for me. I could take someone pushing me, hitting me, kicking me, but to sit there and let some cracker dog spit on me? Well, just the idea of it made me want to fight. To me, if someone spit on you, it was worse than hitting you, especially if they spit in your face.
I'm going to jail.
I tried to tell myself that I would just sit there and take it, but every muscle in my body, every instinct I had rebelled against it. The man continued around the room asking everybody the same questions. When he came to me, I answered the same too, except for the spitting question. I don't know, I told him. What do you mean you don't know? I just don't know. Well, little sister, we can see that you're just not ready. If you want your freedom, there's no sacrifice that's too big to make. Everybody looked at me as if I was some kind of stupid idiot. I felt bad, but I still couldn't get used to the idea of letting somebody spit on me.
No, this was them practicing for their sit-ins. This is at the NAACP.
The man said I wasn't ready, and I had to agree with him. When I think back to those days, I feel such admiration and respect for the spirit of struggle and sacrifice that my people exhibited. They went up against white mobs, water hoses, vicious dogs, the Ku Klux Klan, trigger-happy nightstick-wielding police armed only with their belief in justice and their desire for
For
freedom.
educational purposes only.
I remember how I felt in those days. I wanted to be an American just like any other American. I wanted a piece of America's apple pie. I believed we could get our freedom just by appealing to the consciences of white people. I believed that the North was really interested in integration and civil rights and equal rights. I used to go around saying our country, our president, our government. When the national anthem was played or the Pledge of Allegiance spoken, I stood at attention and felt proud. I don't know what in the hell I was feeling proud about, but I felt the juice of patriotism running through my blood. I believed that if the South could only be like the North, then everything would be all right. I believed that we Black people were really making progress and that the government, the president, the Supreme Court, and the Congress were behind us, so we couldn't go wrong. I believed that integration was really the solution to our problems. I believed that if white people could go to school with us, live next to us, work next to us, they would see that we were really good people and would stop being prejudiced against us. I believed that America was really a good country, like my teacher said in school, the greatest country on the face of the earth. I grew up believing that stuff, really believing it. And now, 20-odd years later, it seems like a bad joke. Nobody in the world, nobody in history has ever gotten their freedom by appealing to the moral sense of the people who were oppressing them. Once you study and really get a good understanding of the way the system in the United States works, then you see without a doubt that the civil rights movement never had a chance of succeeding. White people, whether they are from the North or from the South, whether it was in 1960 or 1980, benefit from the oppression of Black people. Those who believe that the president or the vice president and the Congress and the Supreme Court run this country are sadly mistaken. The almighty dollar is king. Those who have the most money control the country, and through campaign contributions, buy and sell presidents, congressmen, and judges, the ones who pass the laws and enforce the laws that benefit their benefactors. The rich have always used racism to maintain power. To hate someone, to discriminate against them, and to attack them because of their racial characteristics is one of the most primitive, reactionary, ignorant ways of thinking that exists. A war between the races would help nobody and free nobody and should be avoided at all costs. But a one-sided race war with Black people as the targets and white people shooting the guns is worse. We will be criminally negligent, however, if we do not deal with racism and racist violence, and if we do not prepare to defend ourselves against it. Stranger. Everything you love is from a different world. Hungry, you turn your nose up at my peas and rice. Chapter 9. I was taken to Roosevelt Hospital in Metuchen, New Jersey, and shackled to the bed by my foot. Dr. Garrett had established that I was 1 month pregnant. When he visited me, he demanded that the shackles be removed at once, based on the elementary principle that proper treatment, both mental and physical, of a woman threatening miscarriage would not seem to include being chained to a bedpost. My mental stability was also threatened by the round-the-clock guards who sat outside my hospital room with shotguns trained at my head. After 10 days, I was discharged from the hospital over the objections of my doctor, brought to the Middlesex County Jail for Men, and kept in solitary confinement from February 1974 until May 1974. At first, they wouldn't even give me milk. Since pork served as a staple meat almost daily, I began to slowly starve. In county jails, it goes like this: 1 sheet, 1 horse blanket, a metal cup. Your cell is rated if you have luxuries, like salt. They did everything they could to thwart the care Dr. Garrett was trying to give me. They hired their own doctor and insisted that whenever my doctor saw me, their man had to be present. This meant a severe limitation on the number of visits Dr. Garrett could arrange because their doctor happened often not to make it out to the prison on the days examinations had been agreed to and scheduled. My lawyers had initiated a lawsuit against the state of New Jersey in federal court, charging medical maltreatment and dietary abuse. Before the date the hearing was scheduled, I was extradited to the state of New York, which made the federal court action moot. When I arrived at Rikers Island again, I was anemic and malnourished, according to my entrance physical. New Jersey had been giving me iron pills, but I was anemic up to the last blood test before giving birth.
Wow.
The pregnancy or special diet at Rikers, in addition to the regular food, was powdered milk, juice, and a hard-boiled egg daily. This was my diet until I gave birth, and things seemed to go normally. Meanwhile, the lawyers obtained another court order from the New York court permitting Dr. Garrett to continue treating me. When he first came to Rikers, I was in the infirmary. They told him the court order was no good, that he couldn't see me. I was left in a room for 3 days with a woman who turned out later to have active tuberculosis. It was May, and they had turned the heat off. It got cold again, and women who were having seizures, methadone withdrawal, and one sister who they said had pneumonia all piled blankets on their beds. The sister got worse and worse. Finally, they brought her to Elmhurst Hospital, where they discovered she did have tuberculosis. I found this out later when she was returned to Rikers, kept in isolation, and the doctors wore masks and gloves when they visited her. I also had manilia, a vaginal discharge, which worsened because the Montefiore hospital doctors assigned to Rikers could not agree about how it should be treated.
Wow.
They refused to treat the condition at all until my culture was returned from Elmhurst Hospital. By the time they managed to get the culture back, the whole inside of my thigh was chapped raw from the discharge,
Oh
and
my
I could
God.
barely walk. Montefiore Hospital and the Health and Hospital Corporation went to court to prevent Dr. Garrett from delivering my baby. Their position was that since I was a prisoner, it was not necessary for me to have the doctor of my choice. They also said he was disruptive because when he did manage to see me, he often wrote in my chart, which they found very disturbing. The court upheld them. I was only a prisoner. I went into labor the morning of September 10th, 1974 at 4 a.m. on 2 Main at Rikers, where I had been kept in the psycho ward. I got out of bed, took a shower, braided my hair, and packed. My labor was mild, a pinch every half hour, which rapidly became a pinch every 15 minutes. At 11 a.m., I was sure I was on my way, but I had no doctor to confirm it, and I refused to go to the infirmary. Around noon, I asked to call Dr. Garrett, and they somehow got hold of him. He was at Elmhurst Hospital, trying to persuade them to let him deliver my baby. At about 3 p.m., he arrived at Rikers, and I went up to the infirmary to meet him. He told me that I was effaced and definitely in labor. I would not allow the other doctors there to examine me. I was taken to Elmhurst Hospital in a motorcade. It looked to me like a million police cars buzzing around the vehicle in which I, a woman in labor, was riding. And they all followed. Into Elmhurst Hospital and up to the delivery room. They surrounded the hospital. There was a demonstration outside of Elmhurst Hospital in support of my right to choose the doctor who would deliver my baby, and Evelyn and Dr. Garrett held a press conference at the hospital to explain the situation. There were actually 2 policewomen inside the labor room and several outside. I was having contractions every 5 minutes. Finally, I let one of their doctors, a resident, examine me to see how the labor was progressing, which turned out to be a terrible mistake. When he finished, I was bleeding.
Oh no.
After that, there was no way I would let any of them touch me again. I ordered them to bring me a stethoscope to see if the baby's heart was beating normally, and a few other instruments I would need because I said, I am delivering the baby myself. It was a standoff for a couple of hours. Then a nurse told me to walk around to ease the pain and encourage labor. I got up, then pretended to fall out, knowing how afraid they were of lawsuits, and the doctors rushed over to pick me up off the floor. I knew they were worried. I stated again, I am delivering the baby myself. I checked the baby's heart with the stethoscope. It was beating normally. That or the press conference or the demonstration outside of the building seemed to do it. They told me that if I signed a release statement absolving them of all responsibility, they would let Dr. Garrett deliver my baby. I signed making certain that they had no control over Dr. Garrett or over anything having to do with my labor. And that was that. He took over. He examined me, listened to the baby's heart, and at some point broke my water. He explained carefully everything that would happen and answered all my questions. He gave me a local anesthetic in the cervix. I didn't want Demerol or a saddle block, but the paracervical block seemed okay. At this point, I was very tired. After that, I was still in labor but felt little pain. I went to sleep for a while. I woke up about 3:30 a.m. and I could feel the baby lowering, and I thought I could feel the baby's head. I called the nurse. She said without looking that I wasn't ready yet. When I insisted, she looked and went running for Dr. Garrett. They wheeled me into delivery. He gave me a local anesthetic and did the episiotomy. I pushed 3 times and she was here. At 4 a.m., Kukuya Amala Alukbala Shakur was born. I said, check that baby out just to ensure her subsequent safety. The birth itself was peaceful and beautiful, out of sight. It's very important for a woman to go through the birth experience with people she trusts. Later that day, September 11, they still hadn't brought me the baby. Dr. Garrett had gone home to sleep, and when he returned at 6 p.m. that day, I still hadn't seen the baby. He reminded them that I was supposed to breastfeed her. They told him he hadn't written a prescription for breastfeeding.
What?
Finally, they brought me the baby and I breastfed her every 4 hours, another incredibly beautiful experience. The nurses from the nursery were very friendly and kind and kept me informed about the baby's condition. But the staff in D11, the psycho ward where I was being kept in a tiny guarded room, were something else again. They allowed me only 1 shower a day. No tooth.
Oh, is it choppy for anyone else?
Not for me. Maybe if you come up, it will straighten itself out.
Yeah, come up, Chi Chi.
I sent you an invite. But that's devilish, them not showing her baby.
No, that's
Didn't
crazy.
see that. I already think like they gave it away. Like either
I thought
adoption
so
or
too.
the state. I don't think they want her to see her baby.
Mm-hmm. All right, here we go.
Toothbrush or toothpaste, only mouthwash. They don't furnish it, a friend can't bring it, and the prison won't allow it. I had to beg them for a bra while I was nursing. The prison refused to let me bring one. Many strange doctors tried to examine me to hasten my discharge and get rid of me. I came close to physically brawling with a couple of them because I refused their examinations. Finally, they discharged me anyway, without the consent of my doctor. The Commissioner of Corrections, Benjamin Malcolm, had signed a paper taking all responsibility for my discharge. They put me in an ambulance, chained me to a stretcher, and brought me back to the Women's House of Detention at Rikers Island. They took me straight to the infirmary and said, "You will have to stay here and be examined." I was really depressed, having been separated so abruptly from my baby. I said, "I don't want to be here. I won't be examined here. Send me to PSA, Punitive Segregation Area, solitary confinement. Anywhere, I don't care. I just have to be somewhere by myself. Just leave me alone." That's not quite what they did. When I refused examination, I walked out of the infirmary and they called the goon squad, several large female officers. They all jumped on me and started beating me.
Oh my God.
They had me on the floor. Eventually, my arms and legs were chained. They dragged me by the chains to PSA and stopped only when a nurse asked them to please stop. They put me on a mattress and dragged the mattress. They took me to the observation room and left me, hands and feet cuffed. I had no sanitary napkins, no means to wash myself. The cuffs cut into my skin. The scars are still visible, and my wrists were bleeding. Later, I found out that I had received an infraction for slapping an officer in the face while they were beating me. I still refused their medical examination. They finally brought me napkins. I was left on a mattress, on the floor, no bed, and no shower. I was there for 2 weeks. I continued to refuse all their medical attention, insisting that Dr. Garrett examine me. I refused to eat, so eventually my breasts, which were full of milk, stopped hurting. They offered doctors of all kinds and drugs, mainly tranquilizers. They sent the psychiatrist, who had the nerve to ask me if I was depressed. The disciplinary board met in front of my cell and gave me an additional sentence of 14 days in PSA. All other inmates were cleared out of PSA. During this time, I was still refusing most food. I was so weak I fainted a couple of times. At that time, it was also Ramadan, when it is forbidden to eat until sundown for the whole 2 weeks. I just ate once a day when the food was edible, and for the first few days, I ate nothing at all. After 2 weeks, they said, "If you agree to be vaginally searched, you can go to your floor." I did, and went to my floor. The next day, the captain came down to my cell and informed me that they had decided to lock me up again for refusing a complete physical from the medical staff assigned to Rikers from Montefiore Hospital. What had happened was that when I returned to my floor, they told me that Dr. Garrett had been permitted to examine me and that he was at Rikers Island. that my lawyer had gone to court, and the court had ruled that I could be examined by Dr. Garrett. So I waited. A white doctor came in and said in order for me to see my doctor, I must see him and be examined by him first. I refused. Then they brought in a black doctor who greeted me with, "Hey, soul sister." He was really sneaky. I refused him too.
Okay.
So Dr. Garrett was forced to leave and I was put back in PSA. They threatened me with administrative segregation, so I sat on the floor and refused to move when my sentence in PSA was up. They gave me an infraction and a verbal reprimand and said the vaginal search would be sufficient.
Thank you.
Then the next day, they locked me up again. This time, I was locked in my cell for a month. I continued to refuse most food. They let me out to shower whenever they felt like it. I began a hunger strike at one point, and after a few days in the tiny cell, I was sick. I wondered how long I would have to hold out. Evelyn had filed a writ of habeas corpus before the Brooklyn Federal Court against Commissioner Malcolm and Essie Murph, superintendent of the Women's House of Detention on Rikers, to force them to release me from punitive segregation. I was to appear in court for the hearing, but I didn't know the date. Then a deputy told me, "Your court date's been postponed, and your lawyer sends her advice. See a doctor." It was a lie, but I believed it. I was examined by the prison doctors under what I thought was Evelyn's advice. So I was no longer locked, just in jail, and separated from my child. Leftovers. What is left? After the bars and the gates and the degradation, what is left? After the lock-ins and the lockouts and the lock-ups, what is left? I mean, after the chains that get entangled in the gray of one's matter, after the bars that get stuck in the hearts of men and women, what is left? After the tears and disappointments, after the lonely isolation, after the cut wrist and the heavy noose, what is left? I mean, like after the commissary kisses and the get your shit off blues, after the hustler has been hustled, what is left? After the murder burgers and the goon squads and the tear gas, after the bulls and the bullpens and the bullshit, what is left? Like after you know that God can't be trusted, after you know that the shrink is a pusher, that the word is a whip, and the badge is a bullet, what is left? After you know that the dead are still walking, after you realize that silence is talking, that outside and inside are just an illusion, what is left? I mean, like, where is the sun? Where are her arms and where are her kisses? There are lip prints on my pillow. I am searching. What is left? I mean, like, nothing is standstill and nothing is abstract. The wing of a butterfly can't take flight. The foot on my neck is part of a body. The song that I sing is part of an echo. What is left? I mean, like, love is specific. Is my mind a machine gun? Is my heart a hacksaw? Can I make freedom real? Yeah, what is left? I am at the top and bottom of a lowerarchy. I'm an earth lover from way back. I'm in love with losers and laughter. I'm in love with freedom and children. Love is my sword and truth is my compass. What is left?
Strawberry, chapter 10 is 30 minutes. Do you have time for that? Because I want to make sure you get everything. I know you said you only had a certain amount of time. If she doesn't, y'all, I might stop at this point. Is she still here? Okay, you good? All right, never mind. I'm gonna stop talking. Let's keep going.
Definitely got to get that. I definitely got to get those other chapters.
Okay.
Chapter 10. The next several years of high school passed uneventfully. Because I was spending weekends with my mother, we became closer. During my 17th year, however, I decided to quit school, get a job, and live on my own. My entrance into the working world was a rude awakening. I didn't even know what most of the want ads meant. Auditor, copywriter, accounts receivable, key punch operator were all foreign words to me. Every day I hit the pavement with my best office-looking clothes on and a pair of high-heeled torture shoes. Every day I came home more frustrated than the day before. I didn't know how to do anything, had no experience, and was black to boot. Finally, I paid some employment agency 1 or 2 weeks' salary for the privilege of getting me one of those dingy, boring $95 a week jobs. I was one of those slaves where you pay a fifth of your salary for taxes, some more for Social Security, another $5 a month for union dues, and the rest was not even enough to die on. It seemed that the whole world was made up of things I couldn't afford. After I paid the rent on my furnished room, spent car fare, and bought food, I had just enough money to buy an Air sandwich. The only saving grace was that I didn't have too much time to hang out. I was going to night school, so I would leave my boring job and go to boring night school to diagram sentences, memorize garbage, and prepare for a high school diploma that meant nothing in the job market. My life was being spent pushing around meaningless papers that had nothing to do with living. I wasn't doing anything positive. I wasn't making anything, creating anything, or contributing to anything. After a while, I wanted to tell them to take their papers and their job and shove it. But at first, it wasn't like that. After weeks of looking for a job, I was grateful just to have one. I didn't think about low pay, indecent working conditions, no medical benefits, only 1 week vacation. I was just happy to be working. I identified with the job and talked about our company and told people what we manufactured. I wasn't making 2 cents over lunch money and talked like I owned the place. I remember once I was working at some joint where they made trailers. I had a job pushing papers. I told one of my aunt's friends that she should buy one of those trailers if she ever wanted one. She looked at me like I was crazy. Why? She asked. Are they going to give me a discount? I felt so stupid. It hit me. They wouldn't even give me a discount, and I was working there. The longer I worked at those places, the shorter my patience got. Half the time, I didn't even want to hear that rinky-dink stuff they talked about at the office. I got sick of listening to gossip about the bosses and this and that and who was messing with who. After a while, I stayed pretty much to myself, and when I wasn't busy, I would stick a book between some pages and read. That was back in the mid-60s, and papers were filled with stories about riots. At the time, I really didn't know what to think about the riots. The only thing I can remember thinking was that I wanted to see the rioters win. In the office, there was a group of secretaries who worked for the president or the vice presidents. They looked down on those of us who worked in the general office and treated us like we were nothing. One day, I was in the office, and one secretary came in. She was spraying hairspray on a puffed-up French roll that looked so hard it looked like it had been baked on. She began talking about this and that. I was surprised because she never talked to me. Then she started about the riots, what a shame it was that those people were so stupid and dumb for rioting because they were just tearing up their own neighborhoods and burning down their own houses. I didn't say anything. She prodded. I said, "Isn't it a shame? Isn't it?" I didn't know what to say. It was true that Black people were burning down Black neighborhoods, but I didn't know how to deal with the question. She kept insisting. Finally, I said yes and walked out. I was disgusted with myself. I hadn't wanted to agree with her, but I didn't know what else to say. I spent half the night thinking until I felt I had the answer. A few days later, the subject came up again. This time, the whole bunch of front office secretaries, who were friendly with the office manager, came into the general office. Before they had a chance to get any words out after riot, I was on their case. What do you mean they're burning down their houses? They don't own those houses. They don't own those stores. I'm glad they burned down those stores because those stores were robbing them in the first place. They stood with their mouths open. After that, the office manager went out of her way to hassle me. Miscellaneous whites began to ask my opinion about the riots, and I made sure they weren't disappointed. I knew it wouldn't be long before they fired me. The only reason I didn't quit was that I had nowhere to go and nothing else lined up.
Okay.
When I was finally fired, I was relieved. Because my girlfriend Bonnie and I read a lot of fiction and poetry, we thought we were intellectuals. Neither of us had finished high school, but we used to go to this place on Broadway called the West End, dressed in what we believed to be our scholastic finery. It was one of those real college-type places with pastrami sandwiches and pitchers of dark beer. We sat around trying to look deep until someone sat down and talked to us. After a while, we made friends with some African students who were studying at Columbia. I loved to listen to the Africans. They were intense, serious, and had so much dignity. I was introduced to African customs, and they spent hours explaining the various aspects of their cultures. Bonnie asked about their marriage ceremonies because she was dying to get married. I asked about the food because I loved it. Curried chicken, ground nut stew, chicken and peanut sauce, and cornbread that you cooked over the stove. You would break off a little piece, roll it in a ball, dip your thumb in the middle and make a spoon that you would fill with gravy and eat. It really made me think about how bad they've done us. We know everything about spaghetti and egg rolls and crepe Suzette, but we don't know the first thing about our own food. When I was a little kid, if you had asked me what Africans ate, I would have answered, people.
Oh.
One day, Vietnam came up. It was around 1964, and the movement against the war had not yet blown up in full force. Someone asked me what I thought. I didn't have the faintest idea. Back then, the only thing I read in the papers was the headlines, crime stories, comics, or the horoscope. I said, it's all right, I guess. All of a sudden, there was complete silence. Would you mind explaining, sister, what you mean by, it's all right, I guess? The brother's voice was mocking. I said something like, the war we're fighting over there, for democracy. It was clear from the expressions around me that I had said the wrong thing. The brother I had come with looked like he wanted to crawl under the floor. Who's fighting for democracy? Somebody asked. We are, the United States. And then, as an afterthought, I added, they're over there fighting communism, fighting for democracy. The brother held his head in his hands as if he had a headache. I knew I had said something wrong, but I couldn't figure out what. Thinking I had failed to state my case strongly enough, I continued repeating everything I had heard on television, babbling, which only made matters worse. When I finished, the brother asked me if I knew anything about the history of Vietnam. I didn't. He told me. He explained French colonization, exploitation, brutalization, the starvation, and illiteracy. The long fight waged and won in the North, and the U.S. involvement in propping up a phony government after the French got their butts kicked. The brother was talking about names, places, and events, just like he was from Vietnam or something. I sat there with my mouth hanging open. He knew all this stuff, and he wasn't even studying history. I couldn't believe that this African, who didn't even live in the U.S. or in Asia, could know more than me, who had friends and neighbors who were fighting over there. Then he defined the U.S. government's role, that it was fighting for money, to defend the interests of U.S. corporations, and to establish military bases. I didn't know whether to believe him or not. I had never heard of such a thing. What about democracy? I asked him. Don't you believe in democracy? Yes, he said, but the government the U.S. was supporting was not a democracy, but a bloodthirsty dictatorship. He started running all kinds of names and dates on me, and there was no way I could respond. There he was, talking about the U.S. government just like somebody would talk about a criminal. I just couldn't relate to it. But my mind was blown. Despite that, I continued saying the first thing that came into my head, that the U.S. was fighting communists because they wanted to take over everything. When someone asked me what communism was, I opened my mouth to answer, then realized I didn't have the faintest idea. My image of a communist came from a cartoon. It was a spy with a black trench coat and a black hat pulled down over his face, slinking around corners. In school, we were taught that communists work in salt mines, that they weren't free, that everybody wore the same clothes, and that no one owned anything. The Africans rolled with laughter. I felt like a bona fide clown. One of them explained that communism was a political economic system, but I wasn't listening. I was just digging on myself. I had been hooping and hollering about something that I didn't even understand. I knew I didn't know what the hell communism was, and yet I'd been dead set against it. Just like when you're a little kid and they get you to believe in the boogeyman. You don't know what the hell the boogeyman is, but you hate him, and you're scared of him. I never forgot that day. We're taught at such an early age to be against the communists, yet most of us don't have the faintest idea what communism is. Only a fool lets somebody else tell him who his enemy is. I started remembering all the stupid stuff people told me when I was little. Don't trust West Indians because they'll stab you in the back. Don't trust Africans because they think they are better than we are. Don't hang out with Puerto Ricans because they all stick together and will gang up on you. I had learned through experience that they were all lies told by stupid people, but I never thought I could be so easily tricked into being against something I didn't understand. It's got to be one of the most basic principles of living. Always decide who your enemies are for yourself, and never let your enemies choose your enemies for you.
Yeah,
After that, I began to read about what was happening in Vietnam. What the Africans had said was true. There were also articles about the U.S. Army in Vietnam, their involvement in torture and forcing Vietnamese women to sell their bodies just to survive. I was so confused. It just didn't make any sense to me. Our government couldn't do anything that bad, I told Bonnie. There had to be some other information. I couldn't even understand what we were doing there in the first place. Some kind of treaty, they said, but it didn't make any sense. I got so disgusted at one point that I said I wasn't going to read the news anymore. Ignorance is bliss, Bonnie said. The hell it is, I answered. I damn sure didn't want to be as ignorant as I had been. When you don't know what's going on in the world, you're at a definite disadvantage. I decided I'd keep trying to follow what was happening, but I still couldn't believe the U.S. was doing all the foul things I was reading in the newspapers. What do you mean you don't believe it? Bonnie asked. Just take a look at what they're doing to you. The difference between the Africans and the other friends I hung out with that summer were startling. I remember one day at the beach. Everybody is hee-hee happy. It's party time. A multicolored umbrella stands defiantly against the breeze. Blankets and silly-looking beach towels color the beach, along with soda cans and bottles of Bacardi and Johnny Walker Black. Healthy-looking black men wearing turned-down sailor hats and college sweatshirts with cut-off sleeves lug ice chests and other stuff back and forth. An improvised outdoor sound system has been hooked up, and Martha and the Vandellas are wailing in the background. I am insisting on reading James Baldwin, even though the wind keeps flapping the pages. Anguished voices scream and moan from the pages. Compressed ghettos threaten to explode. Poverty and fire and brimstone boil over into a deadly stew, but the beautiful people refuse to let me read in peace. My girlfriend has insisted on fixing me up with Mr. Wonderful, who turns out to be an egomaniac, decked out in monogrammed swimming trunks, a matching terry cloth robe, and a monogrammed towel to boot. Mr. Wonderful consents to grace me with his presence. His looks and manner tell me that I should be grateful, because he is definitely what's happening. His ride is a red MG convertible, his crib is in Esplanade Gardens, and his gig is an assistant manager for some bank downtown. He is cool from his reel-to-reel tape deck to his color TV, right down to his shaggy bachelor rug, which he leeringly tells me about.
Oh, he all that, ain't he?
He drinks Remy Martin cognac and Harvey's Bristol cream and uses a cologne I can't pronounce, and I wait expectantly for him to tell me his brand of toothpaste. He goes on and on about his trinkets and status symbols. Look at this monogrammed motherfucker, I think to myself. He is smug and insinuating. A black version of Bachelor Knows Best or some such thing. I want to go back to James Baldwin, but I am surrounded by a group of people that talk too loud, looking and thinking somewhat like Mr. Wonderful. They are talking about Carmanguias, Porsches, Corvettes, and other cars that are deemed in. The conversation drifts on to co-ops and high-rise apartment complexes. A young man who has mentioned more than once that he is an accountant tells us the benefits of buying property on the island. An insurance salesman says that he sells insurance out on the island and pulls some business cards out of a little silver-colored case, which he just happens to have handy in his beach bag. A red-headed school teacher who has eyes for the accountant says that she has always wanted a house on the island with a big kitchen. After talk about the island has exhausted itself, the conversation turns to places to go. French and Mexican restaurants are definitely in, with a restaurant that sells 50 different kinds of crepes winning hands down. One of the men, who is a poverty pimp, says that he has moved his offices to the Red Rooster Bar and Restaurant. Somebody laughingly asks if he isn't afraid to go into Harlem with all them niggas. Everybody has some favorite restaurant on top of some building downtown. They don't talk about the food, just the scenery. Mr. Wonderful says he has a Playboy key and often eats at the Playboy Club. I smile uneasily, feeling out of place. All this talk has given me a headache. Some fraternity brothers invite me to dance. One tells me that I look like a Delta girl. How does a Delta girl look, I ask. Just like you in a swimsuit? Mr. Wonderful glares at them. I am picking up snatches of conversation from all around me. Talks of grants, poverty programs, and democratic politics. Talk of the NFL and the football season. Talk of Bergdorf Goodman, Bloomingdale's, and Saks Fifth Avenue. About speedboats and cruisers which nobody owns but everybody wants to. Whiskey flows like water, and the speedboats turn into yachts. Everybody's just crazy about the islands. Jamaica, Bermuda, Nassau. Everybody is so chic. I'm so tired of hearing about it that I want to send them somewhere by way of foot. Mine. It's a disgrace. Social workers talking about their clients like dogs. Teachers who don't like to teach. A probation officer complaining about how dangerous his job is. A bunch of money worshippers putting on a front for each other. Somebody asks me if I have my thing together. Which thing, I want to know. I take a walk up to the house to get away from it all. Some women are in the bathroom smoking reefer and blowing their hair dry. I go fishing in my bag for some aspirin. Where'd you buy your suit? One asks me. I don't want to say Klein's, but I say it anyway. They have some nice things. Sometimes, she says without conviction, dismissing me as a bargain basement case. They go back to talking about people and hair going back. They are putting on makeup to look like black Barbie dolls on the beach. I go back outside feeling like I'm from another planet. I feel lonely and serious. Something has been happening to me, a change that has been a long time coming. I want to be real. Am I the only bad-doing, hand-to-mouth, barely making it black woman there? The struggle I've been going through and the struggle I've been seeing is too hard to lie about, and I don't even want to try. I want to help free the ghetto, not run away from it, leaving my people behind. I don't want to style and profile in front of nobody. I want somebody I can relate to and talk about serious shit with. This party is a lost cause. I get my beach towel and my book and ease down the beach a little piece. Looking out of the ocean, I wonder how many of our people lie buried there, slaves of another era. I'm not quite sure what freedom is, but I damn well know what it ain't. How have we gotten so silly, I wonder? I get back off into James Baldwin. I don't give a damn if Sag Harbor sags into oblivion. Me and James Baldwin are communicating. His fiction is more real than this reality. My patience was zero. I didn't want to wait for something to happen. I was into living and living for now. I was hungry, starving for life, but at the same time, I was growing more and more cynical every day. I wanted to go everywhere, do everything and be everything all at the same time. I wanted to experience everything, know how everything felt. I had many zigzag, conflicting ideas rolling around in my head at the same time. One day I was happy just to be alive and young and moving. The next day I felt like the world was coming to an end. Everything in my life was jagged, sharp, unfinished edges. Nothing happened calmly. Nothing was like I thought it would be when I was little. My friends were dying from OD and going into the army. My girlfriends had babies and were looking and sounding old. Nice old men sitting in the park weren't nice old men at all, but were busy masturbating under their newspapers. I got so I didn't believe in anything. It seemed that everybody was in some kind of bag, the dope bag, the whiskey brown paper bag, the Jesus bag, the love bag, the sex bag, the make it bag, and none of those bags were doing anybody any good. I was looking for my own bag, but the pickings were slim. I kept on looking nevertheless, running and moving and hanging out until I was running myself ragged. One day I'd be downtown hanging out with my hippie-blippy, black hippie, friends. The next night I'd be uptown hanging out with the hustlers. But nothing seemed like it was for real, you know? The same dudes who would be talking slick and sniffing coke out of $50 bills one day would be scrounging and begging for a loan the next. Even the most successful hustlers seemed to be nothing but flunkies and potential fall guys for the mafia. My friends from downtown weren't much better. At best, most of them were professional escape artists, into escaping the problems of the black community or those of the white community. Some of them tried to escape through drugs, tripping over worlds that didn't exist on some kind of inner space odyssey. But in their case, the drugs were usually not entirely self-destructive, although I know at least one who zoomed dead out of this world and didn't come back. Through my hippie-blippy friends, I got turned on to a lot of things, though. I got into poets like Allen Ginsberg, Sylvia Plath, Ferlinghetti, all kinds of novelists, music, food, etc. I didn't relate to everything I checked out, but my horizons got a whole lot broader. My growing impatience with petty bourgeois upward-bound Negroes came to a head when I went to work with a black employment agency. Evelyn had gotten me a job there as a typist. The agency was located in Rockefeller Center, in the same building with Johnson Publications, the publishers of Ebony and Jet magazines. I was happy as hell to get the job since I was tired of working for white people. The people in the office were nice and the atmosphere was completely lacking in tension. The boss was decent enough, and I had a pretty good relationship with him and his secretary under whom I worked. At first I was excited, glad to be around so many black people who seemed to be doing so good. Everybody was into making it, moving up the ladder. Black men and women with long lists of degrees and briefcases were in and out of the place. They were sharp, dressed to a T, and talked about junior executive training programs, poverty programs, etc. Some of them talked about those companies as if they were going to be the president of the board of directors in 5 years. Once in a while, I went to lunch with a young man who worked at Johnson Publications. But we always got into arguments, especially about Ebony magazine. Half the time in the fashion section, they would have these elaborate evening gowns that cost thousands of dollars. When I asked him what black people could afford to buy them and whether they were going to wear them to the corner bar, he got insulted. He was one of those black people who think that you are free if you can go in a store and buy expensive things. I told him that the only black woman who could afford those dresses was Johnson's wife, and he got even more insulted. He told me that everything was changing. Everything was so much better. I said that if things were so much better, how come every time a black person got a good job or was a manager or something, it was news and was printed in Ebony? Our relationship ended abruptly when he accused me of always trying to bring black people down and make it seem like we don't have nothing. I ended the matter by cursing him out, and that was that.
Yeah.
These black people went around acting as if there was no such thing as prejudice, and all you had to do was study and you could be president of the world. At the agency, we were working hard for an equal opportunity conference. The idea was to have Black college graduates from all over the country participate in interviews with representatives from the major corporations in America. Almost all of the big corporations were involved, and the graduates paid a substantial fee, plus transportation and hotel fees, to participate in the conference. It worked like this. Students made out resumes, and the corporate personnel officers decided which applicants they wanted to see. It was a big, plush affair in a major New York hotel, with a penthouse suite and quite a few lower floors rented out to the conference. I just knew that hundreds of these young, qualified Black people were going to get jobs. I was proud to have helped bring the conference about. It lasted a few days, and by the time it was over, I was ready to go somewhere and have a good cry. Some of those Black graduates had spent hundreds of dollars to come to the conference and didn't have one interview. The only graduates the corporations even wanted to see were math, science, engineering, and business majors. Some corporations only wanted to interview graduates in very specialized categories like petroleum engineering or geological engineering. Since most had majored in subjects like English, history, sociology, etc., they were out of the running from the jump. I was shocked and upset. After the conference, I went out with one of the Black executives I had met in the agency. I don't understand it, I kept telling him. Why would those companies pay all that money to participate in the conference if they aren't really interested in hiring anybody? It doesn't make any sense. It makes a lot of sense if you think about it. Huh? I don't understand. Listen, he went on. The government says that in order for those companies to keep their contracts, they have to at least make an effort to look for qualified Black personnel. The law doesn't say they have to hire anybody. The law says they've only got to look.
Wow.
I was furious. They had used poor, dumb me just like they use a drug dealer to conspire against his own people. I was part of the plot and I didn't even know it. There were some Blacks who got jobs, but mainly the thing was a sham to make things look good on paper. My friend and I got stupidly drunk, singing oldies by the Shirelles on Lexington Avenue. He telling me about what bastards the bosses were and about the trials and treacheries of the Democratic Party machine, and telling me how I was going to get another job as a go-go dancer in the ladies' room. About a week later, I made up a resume, described myself as a college graduate, and was hired as a marketing assistant. I didn't believe in anything, and I wasn't going to follow anyone's rules but my own. I got fired from that job a couple of weeks later, got another college job, and got fired from that too. I didn't care. I was going to deal with them just like they dealt with us. One time I got a job as a bookkeeper. I didn't know the first thing about it, but after I got the job, I bought a couple of bookkeeping made easy books, and when I didn't understand something, I told them that we used a different system at the last place I worked. The job involved a lot of cash, and I had to be bonded. When you get bonded, they do a background check on you. The job wasn't too bad, and the boss was cool. It was an excellent way to learn bookkeeping and the insurance business. I knew they would fire me as soon as the report came in, but I didn't care. One day, my boss threw a detective's report on my desk. It had my name on it. I swallowed hard, knowing it was my last day. The more I read, the more surprised I became. The report verified everything I had said. Subject attended such and such high school. Subject graduated from such and such college. Subject worked at such and such place. They even reported that I lived on a quiet, tree-lined street, and that they had talked to my neighbors and learned that I was a nice person. I cracked up all the way home. Everything is a lie in America, and the thing that keeps it going is that so many people believe the lie. But my patience was getting shorter and my temper was terrible. I was quick to tell people what I thought of them, and even I was surprised by my bluntness. Bonnie kept telling me, "Slow down, you're speeding. Somebody's going to give you a ticket." She was almost as restless and crazy as I was. We would check out things happening and make a joke of them. The world seemed to be so big and fixed, and we couldn't think of anything to change it. Bonnie encouraged me to stop lying about going to college and go for real. If you're smart enough to fool them, then you're smart enough to play their game. I knew that what she said made sense, but I had hated my last days in high school and had no desire to study anything else. The only other person who stayed on my case and prodded me to go back to school was my friend from Kenya. We had grown to be serious friends, and we dug each other much more as friends than as lovers. He was studying economics out on Long Island, and we didn't get a chance to see each other much. Sometimes on the weekend, we would hang out together. He was one of the few people I knew who was serious about almost everything he did in life, and whose conversation was not just about his small world, but about the whole world. One weekend, we had arranged to hang out. I think we were supposed to go and hear somebody play at Count Basie's club. My apartment looked like some kind of hurricane had hit it, and I was trying to ease out the door without letting him in. Somehow, he managed to get a glimpse inside. "No, we aren't going anywhere," he said. "How can you live like this? If your house looks like this, I can just imagine what your head looks like." I was embarrassed, but I had to admit he was right. I had everything thrown every which way, clothes flung all over the place. It was a wreck. He suggested that instead of going out, he would help me clean up and get organized. "You'll be all right if you just get yourself organized. You can do almost anything you want as long as you organize yourself to do it." I decided he was right. It was time to get my life in some kind of order. It was time to take control. Life was like a bus. You could either be a passenger and go along for the ride, or you could be the driver. I didn't have the foggiest idea where I wanted to go, but I knew that I wanted to drive. I decided the first thing I would do was go back to school. I returned home to live with my mother in her new apartment in Flushing, Queens. Culture. I must confess that waltzes do not move me. I have no sympathy for symphonies. I guess I hummed the blues too early and spent too many midnights out wailing to the rain.
All right. So after this chapter, we're going to wrap it up. This one's only 34 minutes. Everybody good? Oh, you're in Africa? Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, if you were stateside, I could definitely send you the live. You'll be back, Mama. Okay. I'm gonna just do this last one, Strawberry, and I'll send it to you. I'll make sure I just send you the last chapter. It's only 34 minutes. Oh, you're in Ghana. Then I don't know how to get it to you outside of TikTok. I mean outside of the thing. But anyway, let's go.
11. On July 19th, 1973, while I was still at the Middlesex County Workhouse, I was brought to the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of New York in Brooklyn, which has jurisdiction over all federal crimes committed in the counties of Brooklyn and Queens. I was taken there by federal writ to be arraigned on an indictment in which Andrew Jackson and I were accused of having robbed a bank in the county of Queens on August 23rd, 1971. While there were a lot of indictments against me all over New York State I didn't even know about that summer, this is one I surely could not have missed, because the bank surveillance photo taken of the woman holding up the bank with a gun was put on wanted posters that were pasted up in every subway station, posted in every bank and post office, and blown up in full-page newspaper advertisements. They hit the streets on August 24th, 1971, and remained even after my arrest on May 2nd, 1973. Under the photo was the name Joanne Deborah Chesimard. Above the photo were the words, "Wanted for bank robbery, $10,000 reward." After the feds took a mugshot of me and fingerprinted me, I was arraigned, pled not guilty, and was returned to the workhouse on the same day. I heard nothing further about this indictment until January 1st, 1975, when the feds brought me back to the Eastern District Court.
2 years later.
Only this time, it was to have me photographed. The prosecutor has made a motion to have me photographed in the same angle, wearing the same kind of glasses, wig, and dress as the woman who had been photographed by the bank cameras during the robbery.
That's crazy.
The judge, a notorious racist pig, is sure to grant the motion. I have decided to refuse. As far as I am concerned, the reasons are obvious. You put anybody in a monkey suit and they're going to end up looking like a monkey. Besides, someone had told me about some trick the FBI uses. They take a photo of you in the same angle as the bank photo and superimpose the transparency of the bank photo over it. If you are unfortunate enough to have 2 eyes, a nose, and lips in more or less the same place, you end up looking like the bank robber, no matter what you really look like. When I was arraigned, I had permitted them to take all the photographs of me they wanted, and that, as far as I was concerned, was enough. We enter the courtroom. The judge is on the bench. The courtroom has been rearranged. FBI agents with cameras are standing on top of tables. A group of federal marshals are buzzing around nervously like flies that smell rot. They are waiting for action. Evelyn gets up and says her piece. The judge ignores what she is saying and orders me to be photographed. I refuse, stating my objections as strongly as I can. In a hot second, the marshals and the FBI agents are crawling all over me. They seem to be trying to jerk my head off my shoulders. The judge has ordered that I am to be photographed today, now, and that all the force necessary to take the pictures in the way the FBI wants to take them is to be used.
Wow.
The FBI, the marshals, and I end up on the courtroom floor with me on the bottom. I hear Evelyn in the background. Let the record reflect that the marshals are twisting my client's arm behind her back. Let the record reflect that the marshals are choking my client. Let the record reflect that there are 5 marshals manhandling my client. Evelyn goes on and on while the marshals twist me, jerk me, strangle me, kick me, and literally try to beat me into submission. The assault goes on and on with Evelyn putting it blow by blow into the record. Finally, it is over. The marshals lead me back to the holding pen. I lie on the bench like a rag doll with all the stuffing hanging out, feeling like I have just been stampeded by a herd of buffalo. Evelyn comes back for a lawyer's visit. She looks just as tired as I feel. That was unbelievable, she exclaims. How's your arm? Are you okay? More or less, I tell her. My body is aching and my bad arm's numb. I sit back marveling at how cool Evelyn has been. It dawns on me how hard it must have been for her to watch what was happening and then calmly put it into the record. I am amazed at her control. She insists that a nurse be called to check me out. Did you hear that shit? She asks me. Yeah, I heard it. I can't wait for the record to be transcribed. If they don't erase it, I think we've got that dumb asshole right on the record. If they don't erase it, then we can get the stupid moron off the case. Evelyn is looking triumphant and defiant, like she has just put her foot up somebody's butt. What the hell are you talking about? I wanted to know. Didn't you hear him? He said right on the record that he thought you were guilty. He admitted that he was prejudiced right on the record. Didn't you hear him? I'm afraid I was otherwise occupied. What does it mean? It means we'll be able to get rid of his stupid ass. Anybody else is bound to be better. This judge is out to hang you, and he'll go to any limits to try and convict you. If we're forced to go to trial in front of him, I'm afraid the only shot we'll have is an appeals court. I sure hope they don't erase the record. Evelyn and I sit there speculating on the chances of the record being changed. Evelyn thinks the judge is too dumb to even realize what he said. I'm afraid that the judge will review the transcripts and then have it changed. Evelyn thinks the judge is too racist and too arrogant to be worried about the record. It turns out that she is right. She files a motion based on the transcript to have the judge relieved from the case. After what seems like forever, the judge is removed and a new judge is assigned. But before we went to trial on this case, the powers that be decided that I must first be tried on a state kidnapping case in Brooklyn Supreme Court.
What the fuck?
I had been accused of kidnapping a drug dealer for ransom on December 28, 1972. Evelyn was my lawyer, and there were 2 co-defendants. One was Rima Olugbala, Melvin Kearney, a member of the Black Liberation Army and well known to me. The other co-defendant was a young brother by the name of Ronald Myers. The pretrial motions were permeated by an aura of paranoia. Mine. No one I knew had ever heard of Ronald Myers, and no one understood why he had been targeted for this particular frame-up. In fact, I wondered if he was some kind of plant. It all seemed so strange. Finally, we had a joint conference, which was arranged by a court order. I asked Rima about Ronald Myers. Rima told me, as far as he was concerned, Ron was just a brother who happened to have the misfortune of being framed along with us, an unsuspecting victim. But everything in this case was so strange that I couldn't figure it out. A joint legal conference was arranged between Ronald Myers, his lawyer, a black lawyer by the name of James Carroll, Evelyn, and me. Immediately upon seeing this brother, most of my suspicions disappeared. He was 19, but he looked like he was about 16. He had a quiet, soft, honest manner that I didn't think any police agent could feign. He seemed to be just as perplexed and out of it as we were. As I listened to him talk, I felt a kind of motherly protectiveness towards him. We were revolutionaries, supposedly prepared for such things. For years, we had been preaching about and denouncing paid conspiracies to kill and imprison Black political activists. But looking at this soft-eyed young Black man, the thing seemed that much more horrible. Those were very cynical days, and we had developed very cynical attitudes to deal with it all. We had become masters at telling bitter, angry jokes about justice and equality and democratic freedom. But seeing this brother awaken such a sense of righteous indignation in us, so-called veterans, that we were all bitten by a sudden burst of energy, I pored over the discovery material and the police records tirelessly. Rima was tense, mysterious, and determined in his manner. We knew that the state was out to get us, and we were more determined than ever not to let them. The guards came and tore my cell apart. It was clear they were looking for something, standing on chairs, kneeling on all fours. They reminded me of bloodhound bitches. They seemed desperate. I tried to speculate on what they were looking for. One of the black guards, who was halfway decent, was looking funny at me. Another guard, who had always been hostile, looked smug. Shortly after they left my cell, I tried to hook up with the wire to see what was going on. Finally, I got the news. Rima Olugbala was dead. He had plunged to his death while trying to escape from the Brooklyn house of detention. The makeshift rope.
Oh, man. They said that he didn't do that.
No, he didn't.
He didn't do that. Them motherfuckers unalived him. I don't believe that shit. I'm sorry, y'all.
No, you okay? I wanted to say something so bad, but
I don't believe that. That's crazy.
I got to get this whole book. I got to. So I hate getting in the middle of something, and I said, "Well, damn, I got to see what I got to start from the very beginning."
This is nuts. All right, y'all. Okay, here we go.
He was using to lower himself had broken. I felt too numb to do anything, or say it was looking funny at me. Another guard, who had always been hostile, looked smug. Shortly after they left my cell, I tried to hook up with the wire to see what was going on. Finally, I got the news. Rima Olugbala was dead. He had plunged to his death while trying to escape from the Brooklyn house of detention. The makeshift rope that he was using to lower himself had broken. I felt too numb to do anything, or say anything. Some of the sisters helped me piece my cage together. There was nothing to say. Another black man had died trying to be free. Everything was boiling up inside me. I had to do something, and most of my options seemed absurd. It wasn't what I would like to have done. It didn't say half of what I wanted to say, but I guess it was the best thing I could have done at the moment. I wrote a poem. For Rima Olugbala, young blood. They think they killed you, but I saw you yesterday, standing with your hands in your pockets, waiting for the real deal to go down. I saw you smiling your fuck it smile, blood in your eyes, your heart pumping freedom, young blood. They think they killed you, but I saw you yesterday in the playground. Black skin, sweaty, shiny, hurling your ball bomb into the hoop right on target. Won't be no game next time, 'cause you ain't hardly playing. They think they killed you, but I saw you yesterday with your back against the wall, muscles bulging against the chains, eyes absorbing truth, lips speaking it, heart learning how to love, head learning who to hate, blood ready to flow towards freedom. Young blood. Young bloods ain't got no blood to waste in no syringes, on no barroom floors, in no strange lands delaying other young bloods' freedom. We don't need no tired blood, no anemic blood, no blood clots in our new body. They think they killed you, but I saw you yesterday. All of them young bloods must have gave you a transfusion. All that strong blood, all that rich blood, all that angry blood flowing through your veins toward tomorrow. The next time we went to court, I winced when I saw the empty chairs. Slouching listlessly, I thought about Rima, completely unaware of what was being said. There was talk about this hearing and this motion and another one, and none of them made the slightest sense to me. But Evelyn was on the case, letting nothing slide by, citing all of her objections for the record. I was bored to death, completely out of it, until the jury selection process began. There were two prosecutors, one exceedingly ugly lynch mob-looking fat guy and another thin, bearded, wolfman-looking dude, rather on the young side.
For educational purposes.
I don't even
only.
remember their names. The judge's name was William Thompson, and he was a black man, which surprised me. I guess they assigned the case to him because they were so sure we would be convicted, and they figured
I'm
that black
assuming
judges would at least
It's
give the
gonna be the
illusion
worst
of
judge of them
justice.
all.
I bet.
This judge of them all.
Thompson was somewhat of a character who rarely sat up on the bench, but constantly walked around the courtroom. While he clearly could not, by any stretch of the imagination, be accused of ruling in our favor, and his political career would certainly not have been helped by our being acquitted. Nevertheless, the courtroom did not have that out-and-out lynch mob atmosphere we usually encountered. The jury selection process really stood out in my mind. If anyone can write a book about how a black lawyer can pick a jury and eliminate hostile, racist, prejudiced jurors from the panel, then Evelyn is surely the one to write the book. I was fascinated as I watched her. She was all honey and pie as she started to voir dire the jurors. At first, almost all of the white jurors began by saying they had no prejudices. By the time Evelyn finished asking them questions, we learned that they had no black friends or neighbors, would object to their children marrying a black person, or had referred to black people as niggers or some other derogatory name. After a while, many of the whites asked to be excused before Evelyn even asked them any questions. Most of them preferred to be excused rather than have their feelings toward black people, black militants, and Black Panthers questioned and explored. When you think about the fact that the average black defendant on trial gets to ask prospective jurors only a few perfunctory questions, you can see why so many black people end up in jail. Even with Evelyn putting everything she had into picking the jury, it was a long, uphill struggle. But at the end, we managed to get 4 or 5 black people on the jury.
Wow.
A remarkable accomplishment anywhere in America, except for D.C. The prosecutor even had the nerve to ask for extra peremptory challenges so he could bump some of the jurors off the panel. The hardest thing in the world for me was to keep my mouth shut in the courtroom, to sit quietly and suffer silently. Evelyn, well aware of the fact, happily consented to my acting as co-counsel. Although she remained skeptical about my abilities to cross-examine major witnesses, she agreed that it would be an excellent idea for me to make the opening statement. Finally, after days of writing under the dim nightlight in the
Ooh,
cell,
this gonna be good.
I delivered it. I was nervous as hell since I have never liked speaking in public, but I tried my best to express to the jury some of what I was feeling. Judge Thompson, brothers and sisters, men and women of the jury, I have decided to act as co-counsel and to make this opening statement. Not because I have any illusions about my legal abilities, but rather because there are things that I must say to you. I have spent many days and nights behind bars thinking about this trial, this outrage, and in my own mind, only someone who has been so intimately a victim of this madness as I have can do justice to what I have to say. And if you think that I am nervous, your senses do not deceive you. It is only because I know that this moment can never be lived again, and that so much depends on it. I have to read this opening statement to you because I am afraid that if I don't, I will forget half of what I have to say. Please try to bear with me. This will not be a conventional opening statement. First of all, because I'm not a lawyer, and what has happened to me and what has happened to Ronald Myers does not exist in a vacuum. There are a long series of events and attitudes that led up to us being here. When we were sitting in this courtroom during the jury selection process, I listened to Judge Thompson tell you about the American system of justice. He talked about the presumption of innocence. He talked about equality and justice. His words were like a beautiful dream in a beautiful world. But I have been awaiting trial for 2.5 years. And justice, in my eyesight, has not been the American dream. It has been the American nightmare. There was a time when I wanted to believe that there was justice in this country. But reality crashed through and shattered all my daydreams. While awaiting trial, I have earned a PhD in justice, or rather the lack of it. I sat next to a pregnant woman who was doing 90 days for taking a box of Pampers, and watched on TV the pardoning of a president who had stolen millions of dollars and who had been responsible for the deaths of thousands of human beings. For what? For peace with honor? Nixon was pardoned without ever standing trial or being found guilty of a crime or spending 1 day in jail. Who else could commit some of the most horrendous, destructive crimes in history and get paid 200,000 tax dollars a year? Ford stated that he pardoned Nixon because Nixon's family had suffered enough. Well, what about thousands of families whose sons gave their lives in Vietnam? And what about the millions of people who have been sentenced at birth to poverty, to live like animals and work like dogs? What about the families who have sons and daughters in prison who cannot afford bail or even lawyers for their children? Where is justice for them? What kind of justice is this? Where the poor go to prison and the rich go free. Where witnesses are rented, bought, or bribed. Where evidence is made or manufactured. Where people are tried not because of any criminal actions, but because of their political beliefs. Where was the justice for men at Attica? Where was the justice for Medgar Evers, Fred Hampton, Clifford Glover? Where was the justice for the Rosenbergs? And where is the justice for the Native Americans who we so presumptuously call Indians? I am not on trial here because I am a criminal or because I have committed a crime. I have never been convicted of a crime in my life. Ronald Myers is not on trial because he has committed a crime. He was 19 years old when he turned himself in after seeing his picture in the newspapers. He thought that the police would immediately see their mistake. I met Ronald Myers for the first time about 8 months ago in the lawyer's conference room. It was a strange meeting, something I hope I'll never have to go through again. I was shocked to see how young he was. And no matter what the outcome of this trial, I will always feel a bitterness about what has happened to Ronald Myers and what has happened to me. I do not think that it's just an accident that we are on trial here. This case is just another example of what has been going on in this country.
Won't no accident.
In America's history, people have been imprisoned because of their political beliefs and charged with criminal acts in order to justify that imprisonment. Those who dared speak out against the injustices in this country, both black and white, have paid dearly for their courage, sometimes with their lives. Marcus Garvey, Stokely Carmichael, Angela Davis, the Rosenbergs, and Lolita LeBron were all charged with crimes because of their political beliefs. Martin Luther King went to jail countless times for leading nonviolent demonstrations. Why, you are probably asking yourself, would this government want to put me or Ronald Myers in jail? In my mind, the answer to that is very simple. For the same reason that this government has put everyone else in jail who spoke up for freedom, who said, give me liberty or give me death. During the voir dire process, we asked you about the word militant. There was a reason for that. In the late 60s and the early 70s, this country was in an upheaval. There was a strong people's movement against the war, against racism in the colleges, on the streets, and in the Black and Puerto Rican communities. This government, local police agencies, the FBI, and the CIA launched an all-out war against people they considered militants. We are only finding out now, because of investigations into the FBI and the CIA, how extensive and how criminal their methods were and still are. In the same way that witches were burned in Salem, this government went on a witch hunt for people they considered militant. Countless numbers of people were either killed or imprisoned. The Berrigans, the Chicago 7, the Panther 21, Bobby Seale, and thousands of anti-war demonstrators were all victims of this witch hunt justice. Some of you are saying to yourselves, no government would do that. Well, all you have to do is check out for yourselves the history of this country and to look around and see what is going on today. All you have to do is ask yourselves, who controls the government? And who are the victims of that control? Since you have been in this courtroom, you have heard the name Black Liberation Army mentioned over and over. Those of you in the jury have been questioned as to what you've read or seen on television and what your opinions were about the BLA. Most of you have stated that you thought the Black Liberation Army was a militant organization. You have said that what you have read or heard has come from the establishmentarian media. The major TV and radio networks, the Times, the Post, and the Daily News. I have read the same articles that you have read. I have seen the same news programs that you have seen. When it comes to the media, I have learned to believe none of what I hear and half of what I see. But I can tell you, if I were just Jane Doe citizen, and if I did not know better, I would have read those articles and come to the same conclusion. That Joanne Chesimard, Ronald Myers, and all other people called militants were a bunch of white-hating, cop-hating, gun-toting, crazed, fanatical maniacs fighting for some abstract, misguided cause. But 1% of the people in this country control 70% of the wealth. And it is that 1%, the heads of large corporations who control the policies of the news media and determine what you and I hear on radio, read in the newspapers, see on television. It is more important for us to think about where the media gets its information. From the police department or from the prosecutor. No major newspaper or television station has ever asked my lawyers or myself one question concerning anything. People are tried and convicted in the newspapers and on television before they ever see a courtroom.
You ain't lying about that.
A person who is accused of stealing a car becomes an international car theft ring. A man is accused of participating in a drunken brawl, and the headlines read, "Crazed Maniac Goes Berserk." During the 70s, the media created a front-page headline guaranteed to sell newspapers, "The Black Liberation Army." According to them, the BLA was everywhere. Almost every other thing that happened was attributed to the Black Liberation Army. Headlines that are sensational sell newspapers. The media shape public opinion, and the results are often tragic. Before you were sworn as jurors, you were asked about your knowledge of what the Black Liberation Army is or what it stands for. However, most of you did say you believe that the Black Liberation Army was a militant organization. I would like to talk about that for a moment. The Black Liberation Army is not an organization. It goes beyond that. It is a concept, a people's movement, an idea. Many different people have said and done many different things in the name of the Black Liberation Army. The idea of a Black Liberation Army emerged from conditions in Black communities, conditions of poverty, indecent housing, massive unemployment, poor medical care, and inferior education. The idea came about because Black people are not free or equal in this country. Because 90% of the men and women in this country's prisons are Black and third world. Because 10-year-old children are shot in our streets. Because dope has saturated our communities, preying on the disillusionment and frustration of our children. The concept of the BLA arose because of the political, social, and economic oppression of Black people in this country. And where there is oppression, there will be resistance. The BLA is part of that resistance movement. The Black Liberation Army stands for freedom and justice for all people. While big corporations make huge tax-free profits, taxes for the everyday working person skyrocket. While politicians take free trips around the world, those same politicians cut back food stamps for the poor. While politicians increase their salaries, millions of people are being laid off. This city is on the brink of bankruptcy, and yet hundreds of thousands of dollars are being spent on this trial. I do not understand a government so willing to spend millions of dollars on arms.
I'm sorry?
I said, who you think paying for it?
To explore outer space, even the planet Jupiter, and at the same time close down daycare centers and fire stations. I have read the Declaration of Independence, and I have great admiration for this statement. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. These words are especially meaningful in the year of this country's bicentennial. I would like to help make this a better world for my daughter and for all the children of this world, for all the men and women of this world. But you understand that the BLA is not on trial here. I am on trial here. Ronald Myers is on trial here. And the charge is kidnapping and armed robbery, where the so-called victim is a drug pusher, a seller of heroin, a man called James Freeman. We live in New York, and it is impossible not to see the horror, the degradation, and the pain associated with heroin addiction. Most of you have seen the staggering numbers of young lives sucked into oblivion, into walking deaths by the use of drugs. Many of you have seen helpless mothers watch their children turn into nodding skeletons whom they can no longer trust. And seen the dreams, the potential of a whole generation of youngsters drain away down into the bottomless pit of a needle. And these victims also have their victims, the countless number of people who have been mugged, burglarized, and robbed by drug-made vampires who care about nothing else but their poison. We will show you that James Freeman is a liar. We will show you that the other prosecution witnesses are all friends, relatives, lovers, or employees of James Freeman, and that they are liars. You will see for yourself that they have conspired and that they have been coached. Men and women of the jury, human lives are serious matters. I have already told you that I have no faith in this system of justice, and believe me, I don't. I have seen too much. If there was such a thing as justice, I wouldn't be here talking to you now. You have been chosen to be the representatives of justice, you and you alone. You have said that you could try this case on the basis of evidence. What I am saying now is not evidence. What the prosecutor says is not evidence. You may or may not agree with my political beliefs. They are not on trial here. I have only brought them up to help you understand the political and emotional context in which this case comes before you. Although this court considers us peers, many of you have had different backgrounds and different learning and life experiences. It is important that you understand some of those differences. I only ask that you listen carefully. I only ask that you listen, not only to what these witnesses say, but to how they say it. Our lives are no more precious or no less precious than yours. We ask only that you be as open and as fair as you would want us to be, were we sitting in the jury box determining your guilt or innocence. Our lives and the lives that surround us depend on your fairness. Thank you. As the prosecution began its case, one witness after the other took the stand. I don't remember how many there were, but there were a never-ending parade. The trial was a circus. The carefully planned, carefully rehearsed case of the FBI and local New York police began to fall apart from the moment the witnesses were cross-examined. The prosecution was so desperate to get a conviction in this case that they resorted to stupid, theatrical devices that backfired. One witness, also a drug dealer, hobbled up to the witness stand with the aid of a cane, looking like he was 2 steps from the grave. When asked about the source of his injuries, he stated that he had received them several years ago at the time of the kidnapping. Both he and the prosecutor must have forgotten that just a few days ago, he had bebopped into the courtroom to pick me out in an identification hearing, looking perfectly healthy. Under cross-examination, he was forced to admit that he had entered the courtroom just a few days before without any visible limp and without the aid of his cane. He was the only witness who claimed he could positively identify me because I had spent weekends at his house. But he didn't know the color of my eyes. The so-called major witness, James Freeman, the supposed victim, told a real tearjerker about his kidnapping and the forced ingestion of drugs during it. The prosecution had lightly glossed over the fact that Freeman was a convicted drug dealer. We knew he was connected with the FBI in some way, but it was not until he was cross-examined by James Carroll, Ronald Myers' lawyer, that the real picture of collusion between him and the FBI came out. Freeman testified that he was a paid informant for the FBI. When asked if he had been paid by the FBI to frame me, he said he couldn't talk about it. At the end of the people's case, our motions for verdict of dismissal of the indictment were denied, and we put on our defense. Evelyn and Martha Pitts, a good friend of mine, were working around the clock. Since we could not afford to pay investigators, they did all the legwork. Martha, a registered nurse, investigated Freeman's claim of being drugged. Evelyn was running around like crazy after court was over, looking for witnesses to testify. Most of them seemed futile to me, since I could not conceive of how one finds defense witnesses in a frame-up. By the time we called our first witness, Evelyn was looking smug and rubbing her hands together. "We've got their ass this time," she grinned. They didn't use enough dirt to cover their tracks. And they didn't. Records subpoenaed from the State Liquor Authority proved that the bar was owned by someone else, not by the witness who had testified to be the owner. The real owner testified that he had closed the bar before the alleged kidnapping, that he had visited it every day during the period of time it had hosted the kidnapping, and had locked the door as he left and had given no one permission to use it. The bar had been closed for 1 year before the alleged crime. The irrefutable and obvious conclusion was that, in fact, there was no bar, no scene of the alleged crime, and therefore no crime. Subpoenaed medical records and expert medical testimony showed that Freeman's stomach contained only a couple of aspirin, hardly supporting his testimony that he had been drugged with some drugs he could not identify, which he had been forced to swallow, and which had left him knocked out for several hours. Sure enough, on December 8th, 1975, after 4 months of trial, the jury acquitted Ronald Myers and me.
Damn, that was a long ass time to deal with that. Whew. All right, y'all. So this is a good place to stop. We're going to start back on chapter 12. Those opening statements she did a really good job presenting that, right?
Yes, she did.
Yeah.
When you say you're going to start this back up?
Sunday at 7 a.m.
You do this once a week?
Twice a week.
What day?
Sundays and Wednesdays.
Oh, definitely. Make sure you send me a thing that when you start, that way I won't miss you.
Okay.
I got some catching up to do.
All right, I got you. It was that was a good that lawyer, that's the same one that was her friend, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
her auntie.
Yeah, she's good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she was able to get jurors on. I mean, black jurors on the in 1970 anything? Are you kidding me?
Right.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
What's happening, T?
What's up, my brother? How you doing? Happy birthday. I don't know if you seen my message in the
I,
comment section.
you know what? I was listening. I didn't even get a chance to see it, but I was just listening, messing around with these buttons in here, trying to learn them.
Yeah, I sent you a slice of pumpkin pie for your birthday.
Well, I wish it was some real damn pumpkin pie. It's that and some damn cold milk.
I'm glad you joined us this morning, though. Yeah, this has been a good read. I mean, man.
She said she's gonna send me how I can get those start from chapter 1. So like,
Yeah.
Yeah, T, did it work for you? Because I had sent it to you too.
What you ended up sending me was like a recap. It wasn't like all of the
Oh.
chapters. It was like a recap.
All right, I'm gonna try again. Um, if it's not working, if you have a Discord, I might be able to put it in Discord. I know I started a Google Drive for Kush.
Okay, thank you, sir.
I could just add y'all to the Google Drive if y'all have a Gmail account if you want to send it to me too.
Yeah, I DM it to you.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you, love. Appreciate it.
I got a Gmail account.
Okay, yeah. Well, send me your
Well, it's an email.
yeah. Send me your email.
Enter DM though. Don't.
I
Send
will.
it.
I will. I ain't
You got
crazy.
some weird people trying to sell you shit.
I promise you, I ain't crazy. Look, they doing that now. Ignore the hell out of them.
Yeah.
You ain't gonna see. Hey, listen to me. If I ain't seen her talk to you or sat down and talk to you one face to face, one, you ain't gonna sell me shit.
I mean, you should see the 276 unread messages I got. I'm like, I'm not even opening these.
That's the sad part about it, because you can see the total difference of the generations for versus when we grew up versus now. But you're gonna send me something and they're gonna want to communicate with me back and forth through a text. Ain't talked to me, I ain't seen my face, but you want to sell me something? You done lost your damn mind.
All right, so let me try to send it to you, Isaiah's. But Chi, if you could help me set up a book club Discord, and maybe I could put the whole video. Oh no, it said it was too long when I tried to do it for Kush. We're gonna figure out a way.
If I could help with what?
Setting up a book club Discord with the video. Oh, maybe I could upload it to YouTube, right? And then put the YouTube link in the Discord.
True say.
Yeah.
Well, that's even better then.
Yeah.
That's even better. Hey, how the devil y'all get to the teacup thing?
What you mean?
On your
Automatic. When you leave the screen, we
All
see
right,
the details.
right. It ain't nothing you got to do.
Hey, store.
it automatically goes there.
When,
Yeah.
when you go on, when you take a phone call or do something else, blah blah blah.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, when I do try to send it, it only sends the Okay, so in the meantime, for the people yes, in the meantime, for the people who want it right away while I'm getting the Discord together or uploading it to YouTube, send me your Gmail because I already have a drive. And then after that, I'm gonna work on because I could put the Black Jacobins on there and I could put this one. If y'all want the Delectable Negro, I don't know if I have that still, but
Well, I'm one thing at a time, so just send me the one that we was on right
Hey, I'm with you, brother. My multitasking skills have gone down since I haven't had any children to multitask for. You.
For real.
he said, "Wait a damn minute."
I done got real lazy with my multitasking. I can do one thing at a time.
I'm down
I can
to
only hear one person at a time.
I'm down to one or two things at a time. That's it. I ain't try to add no more on. When I get that done, then I'll move on.
Y'all are true.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll definitely do that. Send me your Gmails, and then I could do that, and then I'll let you know when the other thing is.
I'll definitely send it to you, brother.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm in the car. I'm driving about. I do it when I get done.
Yeah, take
Yeah,
your.
listen, you talking, eating, and driving at the same time. I knew you could multitask a little bit. Look, now being the fact that you driving, I'm not gonna add no more on it.
Well, you know, I'm talking through the speaker, and I'm driving with my left hand and eating with my right.
Oh Lord!
And keep both your eyes on the road.
Please,
I
please.
mean, clearly. That's why I didn't jump up here until after the read.
Yeah. she was up here the last time. She had a ball the last time.
I've had a ball this time. What you talking about?
Yeah.
This has been fantastic. Sorry to hear about her friend.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
And yes, I agree. They murdered him.
They did. Ain't no way that baby did that.
Well,
Talking about trying to escape. How convenient.
yeah.
I just
They have bars on the windows in
Right.
prison.
Exactly.
And how can he make a rope with one sheet? She was always talking about only get one sheet.
Right.
You know that shit don't be adding up.
it never does.
They think we stupid as shit. You know.
Yeah. And I like her poems that they've been inserting in here too. I love.
I would love who was reading this book because she is good.
She is really good too.
I mean, she does it so well that I'm immersed. I feel like I'm right there with Assata going through these things.
And it's even with her opening statement, I know we all had the same sentiment that it's the same shit that we've been talking about on these lives. Interacting with these comedians, interacting with these white teen people. It's just same shit.
Same shit, just a different year. And that's crazy because you want to see the progress, but then when you listen to her story, there has not been much.
Nope.
Not at all.
And you best better believe that in trial, you already publicly trial when it hits the public before you even hit the courtroom.
Yeah. Yep. She said that
I missed the part where did they force her? Were they finally able to force her to take that picture that they wanted her to take for that most wanted poster?
I think so, because they beat her up and shit. No, they could switch the court after the judge because he said he thinks she's guilty. So I think then we moved on to the black judge.
Remember they beat her up and then Evelyn came in talking about I can't believe he said that, and she was like, said what? She said that he already believed you were guilty.
Yeah.
And the fact that he was arrogant and left it in there. Bantu, send me your Gmail. Send me your Gmail so I can send you the full live.
All right, let me see that. Let me see if I can do this right now. Hold up.
Jazzy. What's up, Jazzy? I low-key want to start Sunday with that chapter again, if y'all don't mind.
I mean,
you talking about start with the same chapter?
The last one we just listened to.
Hell, I'm fine with that. We might have missed something. Ain't nothing wrong